SBF leaked testimony reveals the truth about him, according to Forbes. So he basically planned to blame everybody but himself, shows the leaked Congress testimony. According to Forbes, SBF planned to say, "I effed up," while testifying before lawmakers about the collapse. This is according to a leaked draft of his opening remarks. The publication says they were exclusively required. The leaked document obtained by Forbes also shows he planned to discuss the following. He claimed that FTX US was still fully solvent and could pay back all customers in full. I can kind of agree with this to an extent because I know they were licensed and regulated in the US. And when you're licensed and regulated in the US, you got to be up to par. He said the pressure to file Chapter 11 started November 8th and mostly came from Ryan Miller, general counsel of FTX US and law firm Sullivan and Cromwell. He said, "I wish I had not clicked on a button on DocuSign at 4:30 a.m., leaving some FTX under destructive leadership." And he said he deeply regrets giving into pressure to sign the forms. And he blamed the inclusion on FTX US and Chapter 11 bankruptcy on the new CEO, John Ray. Zach, take it away.
Yeah, so this testimony, this leaked testimony, was brought up during the hearing itself, with lawmakers saying this testimony is, quote, so disrespectful, citing that F-bomb that was up there near the top. Now, SBF was supposed to be at this hearing, sort of showing sort of like a showdown with John J. Ray, laying out, I guess, both sides of the story here. But that did not come to pass because he was arrested yesterday in the Bahamas. But this is definitely sort of making its way into the conversation as it relates to this House hearing. Would have been wild to see this one drop in person or at least virtually, but no, law enforcement acted before that could happen. So now he is in custody while this hearing unfolds without him. Will, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see that. That would have been very interesting, just in terms of like the comedic effect. And Zach, I'm going to go back to the point that you were just making, that the lawmakers and congresspeople in the hearing were not very enthused by Sam Bankman-Fried's tirade at the beginning of this little testimony, right? Dropping an F word, which we will not do on CoinDesk as a family publication, but he seems to think it's appropriate to do that in front of Congress when all of his work, his life's work, is on the line. So interesting to see him do that. I don't think a lot of people in Congress have time for his PR campaign to continue. But this is, certainly notable. We're going to have to see what happens with him in the Bahamas right now as they're going through all the documentation. I'm curious to see, Zach, what you brought up earlier, like what does happen with the Bahamas and regulation there because of SBF. Jen, I'll boot it over to you for your take.
I need to see an SBF John J. Ray showdown. It has to happen. I think SBF would just get totally wrecked by John J. Ray after seeing him speak this morning. I think it is disrespectful. And I think reading through a lot of his statement, it's everything he's been saying in the media on this PR tour, right? He's sorry he effed up, but at the end of the day, it wasn't his fault. There was so much going on that he just, couldn't fathom it. But also he references these letters of intent, that there are all of these investors waiting to give money to save customers at the end of the day. He references them so much on social media, in the media interviews he's doing, and now again in this leaked testimony. But we haven't heard anything else. We haven't heard anyone come forth and say, I'm willing to put these funds up. He hasn't gone into any more detail. I'm so curious about that tidbit in the testimony, and I just feel like he needs some PR help. He needs someone to help him in crafting his message. It feels like no one is in his corner, and it's just sad now. Wendy?
He's honestly communicating to public servants that could get him in a lot of trouble the same way he would on crypto Twitter. Like, that is a regular crypto Twitter response. Like, I effed up. It's just, you have to switch kind of personality types when you're going into different situations. And I'm sure that he has PR. I don't know. Maybe he's going to play the insanity card. Who knows? But it is all looking like a circus. And again, tinfoil crown on here. I kind of feel like regardless if the FTX ended up thriving or failing, this was all orchestrated to push through negative crypto regulation in the United States and on a global scale with the CBDC. That's obviously not confirmed. That is just a thought that my tinfoil crown has.
There
One
was
thing
a
I want to pick up here.
Sorry, Will, I'm going to go super quick. I was going to say there was someone in Congress this morning who said, who referenced this ignorance that Sam has been citing, and then cited all of the education, all of the very smart moves he made up until this point, and said, I don't think that ignorance is to blame here. But Will, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, I want to bring up two things before we move on from this subject, and that is the discrepancy between FTX US and the testimonies we've seen from Sam Bankman-Fried and John J. Ray III. John J. Ray is saying that, yes, FTX US was actually having problems with solvency and that there was no difference between FTX and FTX US. And then Sam Bankman-Fried is saying that it's not the case, that there was a difference between the two entities and that FTX US actually could have made all customers whole. In fact, saying that he wishes he had not signed that DocuSign at 4:30 a.m. and that he was pressured into doing so. So that's a huge discrepancy, and we're going to have to wait to see what happens with that, right? Because it would be actually a great situation and a great outcome for FTX US users if they're able to get their funds off. But I have a hard time believing anything SBF is saying at this point. I'm going to wrap it up there. Throw it up to Zach for your last take.
I saw a Wendy hand. I'll toss it to her.
Really quick, I did read that their funds were commingled between FTX US and FTX International, so maybe that's not why they were able to kind of release those funds, and they had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy for all, I believe, 134 entities under FTX. Zach?
Last thought here, just absolutely stunning how quickly this has all unfolded. John J. Ray mentioned that November 2nd, that story that was published by CoinDesk was the first time this started to come to light. And here we are, less than a month and a half later, SBF in custody, House hearing, FTX and Alameda in shambles. Truly spectacular fall from grace from a man who was in some of these same quarters speaking on behalf of the crypto industry not too many months ago. Crazy times.